Alright, T-Rex82 here. Welcome back to another Empyrion Galactic Survival Update. This is more of a 3D printing update. I finally do have my Ender 3. It took me about 3 hours to set up to make sure everything was square and perfect and lined up, and then I had to get the bed leveled, which was a task amongst itself. But I did manage to do it. So I ended up doing a couple test prints, and I'm at the point where I am trying to figure out a balance between scale and detail, which I think I've done. I've settled on what's pretty good. What I will have to do is kind of chop up bits and pieces of the main body and print them separately and then piece them together. And right now I'm in the phase of kind of playing around with finishes as far as sanding, primer, and how that's going to work out. So this is kind of just a little update of where I currently am. So as you see in front of you, we do have the Mattock, which I used to model in Blender. I did show that in the last video, so I'm not going to worry about doing that right now. But if you're curious, what I've done is I set up a little booth, if you want to call it that, over here to try to get the base and the turrets modeled. What I did, and actually what I noticed, is that every turret, as far as retractable is concerned, and I think the same for the non-retractable, the base of the turret is exactly the same for all of these small ones, which makes my life a lot easier. The only exception to that is going to be the larger one, so I will have to modify what I currently have. It's still relatively close, it's just the top part of the base needs to be updated a little bit. So that again is what I had been working on. I did end up getting that modeled and test printed, and I guess I'll just kind of show you the aftermath of my first few go-arounds. The base model that comes with the Ender printed flawlessly. Everything was perfect. So I went ahead and just jumped right on in. So let me get a close-up of these. Now these are not going to be 100% a result of what the finished product will look like, and I'll explain that in a second here. So what you can see is on the right-hand side, you've got my first attempt of the base, and there's a penny right there to kind of give you an idea of the scale. These are small. It's very difficult to pack a lot of detail inside of there when you're dealing with something that steps up 1/10 of a millimeter at a time. There's only so much you can do. So what I did decide to do is settle on the scale that you see up above, the top version. So it's a little bit bigger, but yeah. And on the other side, you can see the thrusters. Same idea. I could not get a decent scale on the thruster at the smallest point, and that's incredibly small. As you can see, that fits inside the base of a penny. So I can't do that. So I'm gonna have to bump it up, and I did find a good balance between detail and finish with the larger one. Now, all I did with this is, you can see there's kind of a little cross section there of the Mattock that I had printed up. That cross section alone took me almost 6 hours to print, just to print it. So what I'm going to have to do is, like I said, break it up into bits and pieces. And I did load in the Mattock as a full model of just the base of the actual ship itself. And I'm looking at close to an 8-day constant running build time on that. That's before I break it up. So you're probably around 4 hours each. Then we start getting into the idea of sanding and fit and finish. So I did do a little test on this. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick it up very well. But what I did was, you can kind of see a line down the center right here. Now, this side had a bit of filler primer put in. Once I put the filler primer in, I sanded it down, And I did a light coat, so I didn't go that deep with it. And then once I did that, I just kind of did a flat paint on it with just a regular, I just had something laying around the house. So I went ahead and used it. It's not something that I'm going to be doing. I will not be doing a spray paint sheen on this. Like I said, it is going to be hand painted. But I was just using that spray paint because it was high gloss to kind of see if I like the filler or if I like it without the filler. Because you can really notice the layer lines in there with no filler. So I got to strike a balance. I got to figure that part out. I'm not sure if I like to see the layer lines. It does give it a weird, almost metallic look, which could be kind of good for these ships. Whereas on this side, see if I can get the light to catch it, you can kind of see they're pretty much non-existent. That's just with one pass on the primer filler. So what I would think I might do is I'll do one pass on the primer filler because there is still a little bit of a sheen on there, and it still kind of looks a little metallic. And then what I would do is do another primer, just a regular gray flat primer over top of that, and then from there it would be ready to hand paint. So this is going to take some time. Again, these are one-off, so this is something that I'm learning to do as I go. So getting into all these little nooks and crannies in here and painting all the colors and doing all of that is going to take some time. And with each build having, God knows how many of these, I think Xcaliber's Mattock has 8 at least of just the base. It's going to take a lot of time for me to paint these, but I'm excited to do it. I can't wait to do it. It'll be a blast. I don't have any clue how many hours I'm going to have to put into this, but there's that. So the thruster, let's see if I can just pull that up here. Came out pretty good. That's just with a light blast on it. Nothing crazy. Finishing could be done a little bit better, but again, I'm kind of rushing on this just to kind of get some ideas. And excuse my grubby hands. They're filled with primer and filler just from sanding and doing everything else. But again, once I get in there and start hand painting it, I think it'll look a lot better. I can start adding in a little detail where I can't get it with the printer itself. So I'm going to leave it at that. And until next time, of course, leave some comments, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, keep your heads above the hard deck. I'll catch you later.